What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the boss cars in Chapter 5 Season 3 and whether or not they are useless after the update. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below if you think the boss cars are still worth using. So if you weren't aware, last week Fortnite rebalanced Season 3, and the cars got hit pretty hard by some of these nerfs. And I've seen a lot of players kind of not happy with the fact that changes were made, saying that the boss cars are now useless because they no longer regenerate health. And like, obviously, when it comes to talking about things online, especially in the gaming community, a lot of people are just hyperbolic and extreme. But like, based on reading some comments, I think some people genuinely do not know what the other advantages of the boss cars are. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video, and I'll let you know if I think they're useless or if they're still worth using. So if you don't know what changed in the update, as a quick recap, the boss cars no longer regenerate health. The turrets are a bit less accurate as far as the machine gun turrets go. The grenade launcher turret does less structure damage. The boom bolt crossbow now does a bit more damage to cars. I think it was a 50 damage increase. The cars themselves have a less health in solos, but the HP remained the same in team game modes. And then the fire rate boost that Nitro gives you while in a car was reduced from 50% to 25%. And then boogie bombs were also added to the loot pool as a temporary counter to cars until EMPs can be unvaulted at some point later on in the season. And even though the cars no longer regenerate HP, which I think was like the main thing that stuck out to a lot of people as far as the boss cars go, they still have a lot of other advantages in that they come outfitted with mods, which is good. They have unlimited fuel, and they have unlimited nitro. And if you don't know what nitro does to vehicles, it boosts their speed. You get explosive ramming power when you crash into something, which works great if you boost and like hit another car. I think it'll do like 500 or 600 damage to a car, which is a lot. And then nitro also increases the fire rate of weapons while in the car, which I kind of already touched on. And I believe these cars have more HP than the base cars do. And I don't know if this is a bug or intentional, but it feels like fighting around the windshields of these cars, like hitting the players inside, is a lot more difficult on the boss cars than it is on the other cars. And I think this is probably intentional because I've seen a lot of players say like the same thing, where it feels like much more inconvenient to beam somebody out of the boss car from the windshield than it does like a default car. The fire rate bonus that Nitro gives you was reduced from 50 to 25%, so it was reduced. But even still, 25% bonus fire rate gives you a huge advantage, especially when fighting other cars. Like, imagine if Fortnite added a mythic Warforged AR. Or I guess, imagine they added a mythic Thunderburst SMG, since we haven't had one of those yet. And then this mythic Thunderburst SMG, in addition to having, you know, other base stats that are good, it also had a 25% higher fire rate than the other Thunderbursts. Like, people would be calling this ridiculously overpowered. We have had other mythic weapons in the past that came with boosted fire rates over the default versions, and those were some of the most sought after weapons ever. So I feel like if they just 25% bonus fire rate is not something to be ignored, and like, yeah, the benefit isn't as large as it once was, but constantly having this on your car is really, really good, I think. And so I think these boss cars are definitely still an advantage for sure. They have unlimited fuel, they go faster, and they shoot faster while also having an explosive ramming effect at all times. Some of these advantages can be obtained by the other cars as well. Like, you can get nitro on a base car, and so you'll get a bit of a faster movement speed. You'll get that boosted fire rate. But this is something the boss cars have unlimited and at all times without ever having to be concerned about it. It's just that now with the nerfs, the boss cars require the user to kind of think more about what they're doing because they don't just auto regenerate health constantly. And so I think a lot of this kind of falls on whoever the driver is of the car. If you play duos and like one of you drives and one of you is always a gunner, I feel like not much changed from the gunner's POV, but the driver's job got a lot harder. I feel like they need to be smarter about how they drive so that they're not just constantly getting damaged, and also smarter about how they drive in terms of healing the car, because there are a lot of ways to heal the car in game right now. And the biggest, I think, is taking advantage of the repair crates. And taking advantage of these was already a big deal in car fights before, but now it's even bigger because you don't regenerate health. And I think if two cars are fighting, the car that gets the repair crate is 100% going to win the fight, or should 100% win the fight, as the repair crate auto regens your health to full instantly. And these spawn in the same spots every match. They do have a cooldown time after somebody gets it, and that's why I was saying whichever player gets it has a huge advantage, because if one car takes it while fighting a different car, that second car shouldn't be able to get it as well, because the fight will end before it's done cooldown. But they spawn in the same spots every single game. I'll have a map on screen now of where they spawn. And so whenever you are in a car fight, or you're using cars in a fight, if there's one of these in the area, you want to try your best to kind of take advantage of it, especially if the other car is chasing you. You can just kind of kite them towards this, take it for yourself, and then now you're full HP, whereas they've likely been taking damage the entire time. And if you're the one chasing and you think they might be going for it, then cutting them off and getting it yourself is huge. And you should have an advantage, or a better chance of doing this with the boss part, because they do move faster and have like the constant nitro. So this is why I was saying there's more kind of thought process involved from the driver's POV. You need to be concerned at all times about getting these repair crates or stopping other players from getting the repair crates. And that's kind of going to be the deciding factor in a lot of fights, especially when it's car v car. If you're in the desert biome, you can kind of take advantage of the cactus. And the same is true of this, where like the cars that get it have an advantage. But the cactus, I believe, is only 100 car health back, so it's not as big of a deal. There's repair tools in the game, so if you're going to be playing in a car a lot, having somebody on your team carry this can be really helpful, and also be something that gives you an edge in the fight, especially in squads. And this is also something that you probably didn't need to be concerned about before if you were using a boss car. You know, you could just kind of, I feel like you could play very brainless with the boss car before, and now you need to be kind of aware of these things. You can also heal yourself at the pads at the gas station. Whenever I talk about this, people kind of bring that up in the comments, but like, you're not going to be doing that in a fight probably, you know, like if two cars are fighting and one just goes to the healing pad, like they kind of just make themselves a sitting target, you know. And just to reiterate a lot, like, you need more thought when using the cars now, and you didn't before. You need to think about how you're healing your car in the fight, and like how you're out healing the other cars in fights potentially. They could still be very effective. It just requires a lot more of mainly the driver, I think. And it's not as much of a free, it wasn't a free win before. You could lose with it. But I feel like at the start of the season, getting a boss car probably increased your chances of winning by like 50% or more. And now it's like a nice bonus to have, but it's not as much of an auto win, you know? In the same way that medallions and mythic weapons aren't just an auto win. Like, they're good. It's nice to have the mythic weapon or the medallion, but I'm sure we've all won games without them and lost games with them. And I don't know why there's such like a drastic difference when it comes to the boss cars, where like now that it isn't as much of like a win contributing factor, people call it useless. But we've had mythic weapons and medallions in the game for quite some time now. And they give you like a nice little boost, a nice advantage, but it wasn't as impactful as the cars. I feel like the cars are more similar to the mythic weapons now in terms of the impact they have on the game. Cars are good. For sure, they're still quite good, but like the advantage the mythic cars have over the regular cars, I feel like is more in line to the advantage a regular or a mythic AR might have over the regular AR. You know, it's a nice benefit, but it's really not that game changing. Another thing that will require a lot more thought of the driver is the addition of boogie bombs and even EMPs when they are added, because when EMPs come to the game, boogie bombs will be removed. And without either of these items in the game, it was pretty beneficial to just drive your car everywhere, kind of check any area while in your car. I've talked about this for pretty much all of chapter 5, is like, if you're going to an area you don't know much about, or when someone can like get shots on you, it's probably just best to be in the car at all times, because if you do get caught off guard, you're probably going to take less damage, you can get out of there. But with boogies in the game and with EMPs in the game, if people use EMPs a lot when they get added, just being in the car at all times is not as beneficial, because it makes you an easy target for boogie bombs, or it makes you an easy target for EMPs. So you can't just like go everywhere with the car, or just constantly drive at people and ram them constantly in the car, because when you do this, you kind of make yourself susceptible to boogie bombs. Because so with boogies and EMPs in the game, if you do want to use a car for fighting, I think it's best to try to avoid being like super close to the opponents at all times when they could have boogies. If you're pretty sure they don't have boogies or they don't have EMPs because like they haven't used them yet, or they've been using other things, like in solos, if someone's shooting a crossbow at me, I assume they don't have EMPs. There might, or boogies. There might be times where someone has both boogies and a crossbow, but like I feel like odds are people carry one or the other. It's a bit harder to know in team game modes, but either way, you want to kind of play more mid-range with your car, and whoever is driving needs to be pretty mindful of like boogie bombs, and if they're putting themselves in a situation to get boogie bombed or to get EMPs. I don't think EMPs will be as drastic when they're added, but it'll still be like a bad time to be in a car and get EMP'd because it can't drive anywhere, and the people inside will take shield damage. So either way, you need to be mindful of how you drive now. In the same way that I talked about before, you need to be mindful of your HP and actually healing your car over the course of the fight, rather than just playing super carelessly and super like aggressive all the time with this car. I do think boogies are really overpowered. So like boogies kind of like hard counter the car. And like I really hope they get rid of them soon. But even when the EMPs are added, I think a lot of this will be true, where like you do need to be mindful of how you play the game with the car now. So that's just my thoughts on the car. It's the boss cars got nerfed pretty hard, but they're not useless. They still have some advantages, and they're definitely better than the regular cars for sure. It's just the amount better that they are isn't as big of a deal, and the amount of like an advantage you get for having them isn't as big of a deal. But that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. As always, if you did enjoy this, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.